Hello, everyone. My name is Silvax Sligor. I am a DM, and I hear that you want to roll dice. A little bit about me. I just got done with a 2.5 year campaign. I am working on another campaign. So, what is this all about? Basically, this is how to play tabletop role playing games. An introduction to tabletop RPG, specifically Dungeons and Dragons. I have a couple of players that have been interested in DMing. So, what I am doing is creating this web series specifically for them, though hopefully this will get some outside interest as well. There are 3 tracks that I'm going to use. The first one that I'm going to focus on is the RPG player. This is the person who really likes to get into the role play. This is someone who takes on the essence of their character, and they might use voices. They will refer to themselves as their character. They are a writer, in essence, of the story surrounding their character. Then there's the non-role-playing player. They are here for the combat. They don't care about the role-playing sections that can happen in between combat. They just want to get to the combat. Most players start at a non-RPG player level. And then there's the DM. That is what maybe some of you are aspiring to be, that storyteller, to be that guide in a tabletop role-playing game. If this is you, don't worry, I will get to you. I recommend that we all start as a player. This gives us a couple of things. I will go into that in a minute. So what is a TTRPG? Tabletop role-playing game. Most famous of which is Dungeons & Dragons. There's also Pathfinder, there's Werewolf, there's Vampire the Masquerade, there's a Mistborn one that has come out, there is Warhammer. There are multiple TTRPGs out there. Basically, it is a role-playing game played on a tabletop. So what's this about dice? Dice are your lifeblood. They determine everything in your game. First, you have 7 types. Generally, Werewolf, Vampire use specifically one type, so there are nuances from game to game. Make sure you know what your specific game of choice uses. First and foremost is the D4. This is the smallest one. It looks like a pyramid. Second is your normal square-sided die, the D6. D8 is used for specific mechanics within Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder, as well as other games that use multi-sided dice. You have your D10, which is also used in another dice type, which is your D100 or percentile die. It's usually 2 D10s, one with your 10s, yours, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, your 10s category, and then your standard D10, 0, 2, 9. And this helps you roll percentiles, so like 80%, 60%. And then your 12-sided die, again, it is specific to certain scenarios within the game. And then your bread and butter in Dungeons & Dragons is your D20. This is what you will be rolling the most of. Now, at this point, I am going to share a character creation setup. We are going to go through character creation together because I think it is very important that as a DM, you initially start out as a player. This gives you the option of a couple different things. Hopefully you will play with multiple DMs. This will give you experience on the different styles of DMing, of dungeon mastering or storytelling or game master, depending on the system that you are using. Second, it allows you to experience some of the characters, some of the classes, and some of the races that your players are going to be able to play. This will allow you to run a little bit more smoothly. This also allows for quicker accessibility of rules and things like that. So you don't have to keep asking your players, hey, what does that do? Hey, what does that do? You have a base knowledge due to you playing the game yourself. I also think it's a lot more fun to play. There is a well-known curse out there that once you let it be known that you are a DM, you will never play again. This is because there is a huge disparate amount of players versus DMs. There is a very, very small amount of people willing to DM. Therefore, their services are always in demand. So if you let it be known that you're a DM, chances are you will very rarely play again, unless you happen to find another DM that's willing to DM for you. Therefore, get as much play experience as you can while you can. So let's start building. I really like D&D Beyond. They do not sponsor me in any way. I just like them as a way to build characters. It's very easy, it's very intuitive, and it helps you learn as well. You can do this any other way, any other creation method. There's multiple sites that will help. Roll20 will help. There's a D&D character sheet builder that helps you build your character. And there's always pen and paper with the physical source books. D&D Beyond has a lot of that stuff digitalized, which I love. So let's start building. Now, I'm just going to use the core rules today because this is where many of you are going to start. I am not going to enable partnered content. I will enable dice rolling. This allows me to roll dice. For instance, your D4. I'm not going to do optional features. Milestone versus experience. So advancement type is very important as a player and as a DM. Milestone is by far the easiest, and it prevents over-leveling. Milestone, when you reach a certain part of the story, of the campaign, of the adventure, you will level up. As per either the campaign instructions, if you are using a pre-built campaign, or by the DM, will tell you, hey, you level up. XP, or experience-based, is more liable to have overpowered characters. You kill something, you get a certain amount of XP. At certain XP levels, you gain a level, similar to your other role-playing games. Think Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and any other role-playing game that has a leveling system. I, like I said, prefer Milestone. But that is up to your DM, or if you are the DM, that is up to you to decide what to use. Hit point type. Me as a DM, I usually allow my players to decide. Fixed hit points will add the average to your hit points every time you level up. Manual allows you to roll for those additional hit points when you level up. Again, for me, as a DM, I leave this to player preference. Your DM, or you, depending on if you're looking at being a DM or a player, may have a different preference. Manual allows you to possibly have a low roll and essentially screw yourself with hit points, or a high roll and all of a sudden you're a beast. Prerequisites, I, as a DM, require them. So, prerequisites on feats, you have to have a certain level of strength for a strength feat, dexterity for an athletics feat, etc. Multi-class requirements as well. If you are, say, a sorcerer and you want to multi-class, add another class to your sorcerer class of, say, a fighter, you're going to need additional strength. So you have to have a minimum strength level. For this helps with more of the roleplay side of things, making things um, make sense in the world. I prefer this. Level scaled spells. With D&D Beyond, you have the option of showing not only level 1 spells, but level 1 spells if they were cast at a level 2. Um, Giving the additional, say, damage dice or the additional healing dice, and showing you exactly what would happen at that level. For me, it's easier. I prefer that. Again, that is, for me, player preference. I think it's a lot easier to have that. Encumbrance, this is where it really comes into DM preference. I personally hate encumbrance. If, as long as you aren't a hobbit trying to carry a house, I'm not going to worry about encumbrance. I also don't worry generally about ammo, about rations. I assume you're making and or acquiring ammo on the way. That's how I DM. Other DMs will say, yes, you must use encumbrance, and yes, you are going to be keeping track of your ammo and your rations. I personally believe it gets in the way of fun. Some people like it, some people don't. This, as a player, is going to be something that you need to decide if that's something you want to keep track of, if it's something that helps with the immersion, especially if you're an RP type player. If you're a DM, you need to decide if this is something that is going to help you or your players with the immersion, with the help, or with the fun, or if it's going to get in the way. You have to decide on your personal style. The other thing I do is ignore coin weight. Again, it will add into the encumbrance 50 coins, roughly 1 pound. I ignore it. I don't care about it. You have coins, awesome. Ability modifier display. This is purely player preference. Modifiers top shows, and we'll talk about what modifiers and scores are later in the character building process. Modifiers on top puts the modifiers in big numbers. Scores on top put the scores in big numbers. I prefer modifiers top because you are going to use modifiers a lot more than you are the base scores. For the purpose of me building this character, I am going to set it to private. There are some, if you're playing in a campaign on D&D Beyond, you can set it to campaign only for privacy, which means only people in your campaign can see it. If, like me, you are playing or hosting on a virtual tabletop and you have D&D Beyond integration, you may want it public. That way, whatever virtual tabletop that your DM or you are using, it can be pulled in. So let's go ahead and hit next. So here we start choosing our classes and our names. I usually leave name until we get to species because I am a role player. So I want to make sure that whatever name I choose is accurate to the specific race. And then here you have your basic classes. You have your barbarian, in alphabetical order even. You have your barbarian, which is exactly what it sounds like. He's going to be up front in your face with a melee weapon, breaking your nose. You have your bard, which is more of a support player. They will buff, provide status increasing spells, as well as debuffs, which is status decreasing spells for teammates and enemies. Your cleric is primarily a healer. Druid can be a bunch of different things. Can be a healer, can be a tank, can be a damage dealer. Fighter and monk are primarily damage dealers. And then you have the paladin, more of a tanky. Ranger tends to do things from afar. Think your longbows. Think Legolas. Your rogue. Think Bilbo Baggins. Can be a thief. There's various subclasses. We'll get to that in a later episode. And then these last three are all magic users. Your sorcerer, your warlock, and your wizard. Each one deals with magic a little bit different. Each one has a little bit different subclass when it comes to magic casting. For now, let's stick with the barbarian. It's quick, it's easy. So let's add that class. Now, core barbarian traits. You can expand this. You see that the main trait is strength. That's their main ability. Make note of this. And then your proficiency. So this is what you are proficient at. You're skilled at. Are you skilled at animal handling, athletics, intimidation? Again, this kind of can play into your role play if you're going to be a role play player. With my barbarian, I'm going to do intimidation. If I don't have to fight because my opponent's scared away, cool. I am also going to use athletics. Why? Because if I come up to a wall, I want to be able to climb it. Now, training with weapons. In the 2024 edition of Dungeons & Dragons, they added weapon mastery. This allows you to add certain things. So, for instance, if I have proficiency with the flail, I have the ability to use sap. If I hit a creature with a flail, that creature has disadvantage on its next attack roll before the start of your next turn. Disadvantage, advantage, things like that, I will get into in a subsequent episode. For now, I like the flail. It's a weapon I like. I am also going to use the longsword, which also has sap. So that is my class. Class has been selected. In other classes, there might be additional options, besides just class features, such as spells for your magic users. Now we go into background. Again, this is building on a roleplay option. With each background gives you different things. For instance, the guide gives you skill proficiencies in stealth and survival, and tool proficiencies. It also gives you some magic. If you are using D&D Beyond or the Standard Player's Handbook, go ahead and look over each of these. Figure out which one's going to best support your playstyle as well as your character. As a barbarian, as someone who's up close and in your face, I am actually going to do a guard. It is more of a melee type. Now, if you want to do like a sage or a guide for your magic users, that is absolutely perfect. Now, I'm going to use insight, which is the ability to, as a proficiency, it is the ability to determine someone's motivations. If someone says, oh yeah, I've got 100,000 gold. All right, I want to roll insight to see if you're lying. That is what insight is. Or, no, there's no traps beyond here. I'm going to roll insight, and depending on the roll and the DM will determine your success. Again, we'll get that into a subsequent episode. I also have the ability to have a tool proficiency. All of these are actually gaming sets, so as a guard, I will probably have sat in a guard room doing some sort of gaming. In this case, I'm going to do dice set. I am automatically granted what's called the alert feat. Feats are additional abilities. As you level up, sometimes it will allow you to choose a feat. Feats are abilities added to your repertoire. For instance, when I roll initiative, I can add my proficiency bonus to the roll. Initiative is rolled when you go into combat. It tells what order each player and creature or enemy will move in. You can also swap your initiative with the initiative of one willing ally. So say you roll a 3 as your initiative. You're going to be pretty low on the initiative list, but you're the tank. You want to make sure you're up front and in their face early. So you ask somebody who rolled, say, an 18, hey, can we swap initiative? I want to be up front to help protect everyone. If they say yes, cool, you swap initiative. Ability scores is something that is actually common with a lot of the backgrounds. You can increase either 3 scores by 1 or 2 scores, 1 by 2 and 1 by 1. That's the one I usually use. I'm going to choose strength for both as of right now. I can always go back and change that depending on my rolls. These others are all based for roleplay. So your alignment. Are you evil? Are you neutral? Are you some intersection of multiple? Who's your fate is your deity, your lifestyle, actually kind of sets your initial goal. Lifestyle will be something to definitely discuss with your DM as a player. That way you aren't choosing, say, I'm an aristocrat and I get 10 gold pieces. And your DM says, yeah, no, you are a sage warlock. You are not going to be an aristocrat. So make sure your choice is agreeable with your DM. DM in most games will serve as the game's deity or pantheon of deities. They are, in essence, God. Generally, what they say goes. All of this in the physical characteristics are literally what do you look like, personality traits, ideals. These are different things that you can add to help flesh out your character. Again, more used by the role play type player versus the non-role play, as well as specifically the backstory. More used for your role play versus non-role play players. So now we get into the fun part, which is your species. What kind of creature are you? Obviously, the most common is going to be human. That's what most of us are. So that is what I'm going to choose this time. It tells you your size. Your size is medium. You're somewhere between 4 and 7 feet tall. Okay, that tracks. Or small, depending, are you a dwarf or a midget? Your speed is 30 feet, which means in a turn, when we get into combat, or any time that free movement is not allowed, you can move 30 feet per turn. You gain heroic inspiration. Inspiration is something else I will touch on later in this series, whenever you finish a long rest. You are skillful. You can gain proficiency in one skill of your choice, and you are versatile. You gain one origin feat of your choice. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Size. I'm going to go medium. Skillful. Oh, I'm good at investigating, I'll say. Versatile. Well, let's see what Savage Attacker is. You've trained to deal particularly damaging strikes once per turn. When you hit a target with a weapon, you can roll the weapon's damage dice twice and use either. So that's essentially rolling with advantage. Language, you know 2 languages. As a human, you know Common, which most races will know, plus 2 others. Let's go Dwarvish. He probably had contact with dwarves, and Elvish. All right, ability scores. There are 3 types of ways to determine ability scores. 1, you have standard array. This gives you these rolls as ways to determine your abilities. You also have point buy. This is similar to a lot of role-playing games where you have a base number and you start adding points to each ability in order to create your character. I recommend point buy for those who are well versed in the games that they are playing as well as the classes that they are playing. Otherwise, you could have a useless character because you did the points wrong. My favorite, the one that I use most, is manual, also known as rolled. So this in D&D Beyond, it does it for you. It'll roll 4d6s, your typical cubed die, and drop the lowest one. So of the pretty average so far. Now remember, as a barbarian, strength was going to be my primary ability. So I want to put my highest roll as strength. Now the second one that is really important is constitution. That is your life. Constitution is used to determine hit points. It is also used to determine can you resist poison, can you resist seasickness, things like that. So I will usually put Constitution as my next one. Dexterity, I'm actually going to do Charisma because I want to be able to, in a word, lie. I want to be able to convince people to do what I want them to do. And then Dexterity, because I have two 12s, I'm going to put those Charisma and Dexterity at the same. Now, if you're following along with me, building a character, your rolls may be different. That is what I love about rolling. It leaves things up to chance. It's like, here you go, you're born, here's your stats. I am then going to do Intelligence and Wisdom as my lowest. Now, if I apply these and scroll down, remember, I put +3 from my guard ability improvements into strength. There it is. So I get a +4 to any strength checks. So if I have to roll, say, to pick up something, I will roll a die and add 4 to it. And this is the modifier that is going to be on top, which I will show you once we are done. We then go to equipment. Especially as a starting player, I am going to highly recommend use the starting equipment as opposed to getting the gold. You want to be able to purchase, yes, but you want to be able to get into things quick. I'm going to grab some dice. For my gaming set, I also have a spear, a light crossbow, a hooded lantern, manacles, quiver, traveler's clothes, and 12 GP. Gold pieces. I also have a great axe, 4 hand axes. So I add that. Everything is now added. So it's all in my inventory. It is not, however, equipped until I click use. So I'm going to click use on the backpack, wield on the crossbow, wield on the great axe, wield on the hand axe, the quiver, and the spear. So what does this all look like? At the end, you have a character sheet like this. You have your scores, you have your modifiers, you have all of your attack options, and you have a character sheet ready to go. Again, I would recommend doing this even if you're playing on just DMing. It gives a lot of information and a lot of experience to what your players are going to be going through. So, and that is the initial introduction to Dungeons and Dragons. Next time, I'm going to start delving into some of the terms and going into some of the idiosyncrasies of playing a character. I'll be using multiple characters of mine as well as a virtual desktop to show you some options and some interactions that can happen, as well as how, as a player, specifically a non-roleplay player, may look at these things and how to deal with them. So until next time, have a wonderful time at the table.